Oh, hello. I'm Jon Hopwood. This is Ward 13. And coming to you with an amazing artist, Gonzo. Hi, John. You just stay over there, and I'll take over. John's late, everybody. Now, if you were here a couple weeks ago, you would have noticed the public chastising that he did to me for the importance of being late. It's live television, he would say. But here he is. Now I'm in charge, so anything can happen. So, we won't make anything happen, though. Let's see. Things are changing in Manchester, I would say, a little bit. First of all, no one's wearing a face mask anymore. I don't know if you've noticed that. Except you're certain sectors of town, maybe the north end of Manchester at Hannaford. You'll find about 50-50. But for the most part, no one really is buying into the whole face mask thing anymore, which is a shame because we really don't know yet. I know the weather impacts things, so it kind of gives you a little more freedom. Well, first of all, no one wants to wear a face mask in the heat, but they should, you should, I should, we should all wear face masks when in public, only because we don't know what the hell's going on yet. But that's changing. Mayor Craig got a little involved this week. Good for her. Shout out. So, Mayor Invisible became visible. And now someone's in some hot water. And I touched upon it a couple of weeks ago that eventually this is going to happen. I mean, come on, it can't not happen. But I didn't know what kind of following it would have on Facebook. And, it seems to be once a couple leaders, like mayor or whatever, is going to actually make a point to say something, then all the people that wanted to say something or was at the tip of their tongue is starting to say something. So once that starts, it's not looking good. I don't believe that anything will happen out of it. In fact, I'm fairly sure that as long as, time goes by, things go away, In fact, here comes nobody. Just keep going. So, yeah. So John's here, everybody. He's here. He's looking good in his suit. I bring a little contrast to the show. I'd like to get John going a little bit. But I don't believe anything's going to happen out of the mayor's call for resignation. I don't, because it seems like, like a Trump type of person, you don't really admit guilt, because then if you're apologizing to most people, that looks like an admission of guilt. So if you apologize and say what I did was wrong, that's kind of confirming everyone's allegations. But if you say, what I said was just, I meant to call someone, a dumbass or something like that, and you just kind of stick by your stance, and then as weeks go by, we won't be talking about this anymore. I mean, I don't know if anybody listens to sports radio, but Mike Felger, who's one of the most hated sports guys out there, still has his job, and he's good at what he does. But he made comments about Roy Halladay and how he made some controversial comments, and he almost lost his job that day. But then what he did is he came in, he was humble, and over time, no one even talks about it. It's like you can get away with things as long as time goes by and people don't bring it up anymore. So it needs to stay a hot topic if it's going to yield any results, And by results, I mean for, JKL to actually abandon his post as alderman at large after getting like the most popular vote ever. I don't see it happening. It doesn't seem like he's fazed by this. In fact, I bet if he's anything like me, an egomaniac, you love all the attention you can get. So no press is bad press, So I'm sure he's loving this. What I didn't understand or didn't see happening, which I understand, but I didn't see coming, was all the support behind the mayor to actually make this happen, And by support, I mean signing an online petition or whatnot. But it seems to me like there's about 4,000 plus or so. 5,000 plus or so that do agree, and that's a lot of people, but if he's smart, he'll stay off Matrix's happenings page.
Wait, has he been?
He'll come in. He'll come at 8:00. He'll sit right where I am, or I don't know. Maybe he sits where you are. He'll spout off how he's doing us a favor or so whatever. He'll come out and he'll in his lawyer way convince people otherwise. And I bet you, out of those 5,000 people on the petition, if he could sit down each one of them, he could probably get half of them to unchange their vote.
I doubt that.
You don't think so? Why not?
Why would you say that?
Because I'm saying he's a convincing
Do you believe that
individual.
Those 5,000 signatures are just about him insulting that young African American?
No, I don't think it specifically was to the comments that he made. No, but it's like it's like a body of work.
Let's have a two-shot, and no calls except Carol or Jim.
It's like a body of work type of thing. He's probably getting.
Oh yeah.
People are like
the people that he's are disgusted with his behavior. But I'm not going to talk about Joe Lavasser today.
Yeah, me neither.
And why would that be?
Because you have PSTD.
Well, we talk.
PTSD.
You don't tell people what we talk about privately.
Oh, okay. Well, you
no,
said
because
it.
of legal reasons.
Oh, okay.
Because
Well, I'm not afraid of that. There's nothing I say that isn't
Yeah,
true.
but when you get a lawyer, the lawyer doesn't want somebody that's on television or the radio talking about the person that you're going to sue.
Like I said, more press. Give me more press.
Ask who that person is.
Oh, I know who it is.
Who is it? Ryan?
Isn't it a radio show host that's not allowed to mention their names anymore?
Mike?
No, I don't
Matt?
know. Something like that. Maybe that. Yeah, maybe. Regardless, he can only sue me.
If anybody calls, ask their names.
He can only
no, Eric, this is too serious. Well, no, let's take Eric's call because I got to set up. Why don't you take this?
Okay. Hello, guys.
Eric, are you there?
Hello, guy. It's Eric EZG.
Are you there, Eric?
Yeah, hello. Hey, hello, friends.
Okay.
Hey, Gonzo, I don't know if you remember, we're about the same age. Years ago when Reggie Lewis died.
Yeah.
The Celtics, this guy went on the radio, I forget his name, but he was one of the guys that used to work at WEI, and he totally lost it on the air, and they fired him.
Yeah. That happens, that's the cancel culture we live in. And
well, what do you mean the cancel culture?
Well,
You're
the cancel culture, the Roseanne
What did the guy
Barr
say?
effect, I don't know what he said.
So we're talking about he made a racist comment to Eric G?
Something like that, yeah.
Oh, well, that's different, obviously.
So we'll focus on the guy getting canceled rather than being racist.
So you can't say things on the air and you can't get fired.
Well, you can't get sued either if you don't say anything that's not true.
That's not true. I got sued for saying something that wasn't
he was
for something that
friends
was
with a guy
true.
and he was really mad the Celtics played him, and remember the guy had a bad heart, and he took it personal.
And we have to understand that in the context, we had one of the greatest players ever, Bill Russell, who had the greatest basketball dynasty ever. And when I'm out in L.A. and have to see the Lakers winning, it was pretty god-awful as they were closing in on our record crowns. And Bill Russell was a victim of racism, spoke out against racism.
Oh, yeah.
Boston, when I went to university, BU, where I studied with the great Howard Zinn, was racked by racism. The busing crisis was so emblematic that in a so-called liberal Kennedy land, there'd be such a reaction against integration that in Martin Scorsese's movie, he remade a Japanese movie, he actually starts with footage of buses in Boston, South Boston, being attacked by whites.
Well, the thing is, I think that...
But I'm just saying, the Celtics, as all sports, have a history of racism.
Oh, they do. In Boston in general has that stigma.
One of the last teams in the country to have blacks on their team.
Last team baseball, we gave up the rights to Willie Mays, arguably one of the greatest players of all time. Must be top 5, greatest living player. Gave up the rights to Willie Mays.
Well, Yaki was a piece of crap.
Because he was because of the color. No,
I disagree with Gonzo, though, as far as the local politics. Nothing's going to happen to those 2 aldermen.
Nothing. I said you do agree.
You know what? And so you know why that is, Eric? What you're talking about the past?
Well, because
because in the past, no one ever did anything to make, to have a reckoning. We're not talking about not violence or anything.
Well, people have done things on the school board and nothing's happened to them. So.
Oh, yes, I know. Just
I'm very
read
surprised.
Dave Scannell.
I'm very surprised if anything happens.
Nothing's going to happen.
Let me
though.
just take
Nothing.
Okay, you already said that.
Okay.
And we're in a mentor relationship.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like in senior year of high school, and you're still a sophomore.
But you're late today, so
All right,
you're in
boys.
trouble.
Eric, no, stay on. The thing is that under state law you can remove a all. Oh, okay, Jim or Carol, if they call. Under state law, you can remove a city alderman, city councilor, town councilor.
Mm-hmm.
Under state law, under our charter, it takes 9 votes. Joe Lavasser could have been removed back in '74 when he was found to be, we'll use the word, what was it, unfounded, his charges against Chief Mara and the police department. And Chief Mara just said, in the speeches, including Nick Willard's brilliant speech indicting Lavasser, that he's a liar. He's a liar. That's what they said. Phil Griazzo, Alderman Phil Griazzo, is now on the town council of Bedford, called him a pathological liar. Not my words, his word, Phil's words. They could have taken him out. Now, there's internal politics about why that didn't happen. I can tell you about it after the show. I'm not going to go into it. But here's a question I have, which is illuminating. The reason Joe Lavasser can be gotten rid of, Mike Porter is going to be get rid of, in the election in Ward 8, They just have a strong candidate, and he's gone.
Yeah.
And I actually, I have affection for Mike. I never attacked him or anything, but he's out there on some issues.
Well, I bet he regrets what he said, for sure.
I think he does.
I don't think the other one does.
But when you're talking about a plow truck in the context of
Yeah,
protesters,
not smart.
when Charlottesville, somebody was killed by somebody barreling into them, and a day or two, the same incident happened, and then the person jumps out, pulls a gun, and shoots him in self-defense.
For sure. I wonder if he was just trying to kiss up to Joe by saying, like, a comment.
No, Joe, when Dave Scannell went after Rich Girard for contacting an 18-year-old high school girl, apparently in violation of federal law, which we never hear about it ever again, and because the school board is more Byzantine, more clouded in dark clouds, Byzantine, like mazes and intrigues, than even the Board of Aldermen, which is a pretty straightforward, like a mafia unit or something, whereas the school board would be like CIA or something.
Well, I don't think I think they're power. They have power.
You haven't dealt with these people. You're not in there. You're not seeing the sausage made. It's pretty disgusting. When Dave Scannell called him out, and called him out because he was harassing the family too, and he has his allies published a picture of this girl. These right-wingers. We'll just leave it at that. Part of what I call the Republican meme machine. When that happened,
I like that.
They
the meme
went after him, saying because he had leaked a letter, confidential letter, which, by the way, every journalist had. Everybody knew that. They went after him, turned it around, and then they had what an auto da fe is?
No.
That's when, during the Inquisition, they used to take the heretics. They would beat, on the verge of death already from being tortured. They'd put them in a robe, put a fake bishop's mitre on them, drive them into the middle of town, and then burn them alive. An auto da fe, an Inquisition. And when that happened, there was Mike Porter there. He going after Dave Scannell. Not a word about Rich Girard. You had a former police lieutenant from Litchfield who'd been arrested for beating his daughter on Christmas Eve. There's a real hero.
That really adds to it, that Christmas Eve dance at home.
That he was always the public security analyst for Girard at Large, which incidentally, all the radio shows, they've been taken down. They're just not there anymore. So I was searching for one of them. And they all piled on. And I remember somebody that was there at 7 o'clock says, why aren't you here? Says, haven't I done enough? Says, nobody's here to defend Dave Scannell. That included his friends. Part of the attack on Dave Scannell was they were going to attack his wife. We're going to use the union leader for that, because one of the school board members is no longer there. Supposedly had gotten an email from her. From what I understand, that person misrepresented the email. But the pressure on people's families, how the Joe Levasseurs and the Rich Gerards work, they pressure your family. The constant harassment.
Well, that's...
You know what Joe Levasseur, I hear, is capable of? If he's your enemy, he's capable of going to your neighborhood to search for a perceived enemy.
Well, I don't know if I would call him an enemy. I would call him
of his perceived enemy.
I would call him a blight to society.
Well, apparently I called him a plague yesterday. I don't even remember saying that.
Well, the thing is, though, here's the thing. He throws a lot of first punches, but he never sits there and swings back the third time. So he'll punch, get a retaliated comment, but you never see him come back on happenings or whatever. Like, he rarely ever chimes back in. After starting the fire, he never...
This is Joe's modus.
It's kind of a coward move to just start a fight and then back out.
Well, he is a coward. This is a city of cowards. I told the kids last night, who are the hope of Manchester, these beautiful kids out there standing there, who in their heart, their hearts and their soul, they expect racism in New Hampshire. They understand there is racism in New Hampshire. When you see them one-on-one or talking in their faces, you realize in their soul, the core of their soul, that's universal. They're wondering, why am I being hated? Because I'm an ethnic, I'm an ethnic group, or the color of my skin.
So I'm going to say something that's probably not agreeable, but
I'm on the TV, but you can call me about 3:55 if you have to. Okay.
I don't feel like what he said was supposed to be a racist comment to who he said it. What I think is, I think some of the Democrats definitely took that as an listen.
Is Zipperhead a racist comment?
Let me finish.
Okay.
I think he's old school and he's just like Zipperhead, like a dumbass. But I don't think he. So I think that
Zipperhead being a Vietnam era.
So him doing that, John, was an opportunity for someone to say, okay, now we have something concrete. Now we have something tangible that'll work. We have it.
Should I call you a spick?
No, don't call me that. But if you did, I mean...
How if I called you the N-word?
I mean, I don't use language like that, so I wouldn't approve of it. My point is...
I've never heard Joe use the N-word.
I understand when he said Zipperhead to somebody, how it's not good. It's not good. Now, say you got...
We don't have an Asian American community.
So that's how we get to pull him over. So he didn't know he had a taillight out.
That's a good.
We're using that as a chance to pull him over. Now we have, what is it? Probable cause on him. So now we can search a little more. So you ever notice how when somebody gets busted for something, they do something dumb, and then the ants come marching in and they do all kinds of digging through your life. And now they find out other things from 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And now that's why you never want to have that broken tail light.
That's right.
Because they'll find out what you're all about.
If you're like a mafia capo or a drug dealer or driving around in that Eldorado and being reckless. Like
that guy who did that.
You get busted for his minor thing, and then they take you...
the cop in Minneapolis, nobody knew that he'd been reported 18 times. No one knew about his history until he did something to get on the radar.
Yeah, I understand.
So this is the Democrats' chance to take this Zipperhead comment.
It's not just Democrats.
And now he's on the radar, and now they can use it.
Why do you say Democrats? We have Democrats
that's most
that
of the
support
people
Joe.
that want him out. I'm thinking most people
do you think
who hate Joe are not aligned politically.
Do you think that the Democratic Party in New Hampshire is some type of liberal bastion?
No, I don't. Well, I do, in a way. I mean, we voted Democrat in the presidential election, most of the time.
Do we vote? We did the primary. Let's not go down there. But
anyway,
I've lived in other places where this would be
that he made
Democrats here are
was wrong in infraction on life. You can't do that stuff. It's so sensitive now. Anyway, you just can't. You got to know not to do that.
What does it mean?
It's a chance to take him out and then put him in the spotlight. And now 4,000, 5,000
But
people.
that's, you know,
Now
have you
the
ever,
light's on him, and he's screwed because of that.
have you ever heard the term, you can't see the forest but for the trees? That applies to me all the time. What you say is right, but it doesn't matter. He's using that term. It's a young African-American man. And he says, get a job. Did you ever hear, what was
that's
it,
racist.
Bruce
I'm sorry, that's
Hornsby,
racist.
the song, The Way It Is, where the guy passing the people in the welfare
Just the
line,
way it
get a
is.
job. You think that that's not racist? You think that's not coded language?
I never really looked into it. I know
You-
the Tupac version.
You're not young. You're too young to remember Ronald Reagan, who launched his post-GOP convention in 1980 in Philadelphia, Mississippi,
Just say no.
with a speech on states' rights. Coded word, understood by everybody, segregation, in defense of segregation. That
Right.
was understood that he was racist. What happened in Philadelphia, Mississippi in 1964?
I'll tell you exactly what happened.
No, tell me.
How the heck would I know?
Because you should know.
Where was it?
Philadelphia, Mississippi. 3 civil rights workers were lynched by the Ku Klux Klan, murdered, buried in an earthen dam. There was a movie made about
That's
it
racism.
called Mississippi Burning
That
that
would be
made the
racism.
FBI the heroes.
Yes,
See,
I
you
saw
don't know
that. I saw that movie.
It's not your fault that they don't teach you history.
Well,
Okay, we're taking Jim O'Connell. It's great to have you on, because it's a good point of view. I like to hear your point of view. No, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. Okay, Jim, welcome.
Hey, hi, John. How are you?
Fine.
Hey, I just wanted to insert myself. I haven't been listening because I'm not. I'm on
Right.
the road. I'm not in front of a screen or whatever. But I did want to just talk about very briefly about the issues around, the allegations of racism and intolerance, etc., that are flying around. My thought is that we have a problem that exists in our city, and that there is at very minimum a misunderstanding between different groups of people.
Yes.
And so long as it's about personality and people are sort of attacking individuals,
Right.
then that's because what it does is it distracts us from the real job that we need to do, which is to make us a more whole society where people are treated equally. And so I think the steps that were taken by the Board of School Committee this week in recognizing the previous inequities and
Right.
saying, we're going to work hard along with partners to ensure that we drive fairness and equity and equal treatment across our school district and across the city writ large. So I'm not trying to be all kumbaya about it, but
That's
there
a
are those who want to attack
significant
me
thing.
because of my stance.
Right.
It's not about me or anybody else. It's about we need to, as a society, we need to fix the problems that are clearly there. And only an idiot, in my polite opinion, or only an idiot would argue that there is no problem there. So let's concentrate on the problem.
Can I just say something, Jim? This is what I would say about Joe Lavasser, as we were talking about him, and there's not much I'm going to be saying about Lavasser for certain reasons. But knowing Joe, I'd say if you said, is Joe Lavasser a racist? I say I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. I know he hired African-American worker. Well, if you said is his behavior racist, I would say definitely. There's a difference between conscious racist, I think, and what is insidious and the real horrifying part
It's a
that
dog
you and
whistle. A dog whistle.
you and I are dealing with is this deep racism that's just woven into the fabric of our culture and our very, I hate to say souls, but our experience.
If I might, we have to recognize a couple of other things. I guess some of the realities are that the state of New Hampshire is one of the least diverse states in the United States of America, and so our population, certainly historically, has looked a lot less like the modern population of the modern United States than most other states do. And so many of our community members are slow coming to these topics because they haven't lived in what you and I might call the real world,
right? And we have
in a more diverse world.
Yeah.
And so they've had to deal with issues of diversity and difference, and learn to tolerate and to come together with people. And so we're a product of our circumstances, and we just really need our politics, our community leaders, and everybody to, first of all, recognize that we have a problem, and then come together and find ways to ameliorate and eliminate the difficulties. And I would really like to see the conversation going in that direction in the community. And I'm a big boy, by the way. I don't mind. It's not people chasing me around the world because I proposed recognizing these the hardships that our minorities had suffered in the past. They want to make it about me. Well, that's their problem.
You're being retaliated against.
I want to leave this district better than we entered it.
You're being retaliated against online by, I'm not even going to say the usual suspects.
So can I ask a question? So can I ask a question?
It's
I don't want to make it about. I don't want to make it about me because like whatever we say, you say one more thing here, it becomes another round of who said what about who. So I don't make it about personalities because that's the refuge of a scoundrel, right? That's hide behind ad hominem arguments, so we don't have to deal with the harsh realities. We've eliminated some of that from our public speech in the last year or so. So that's been a big plus, and I'd like to keep moving in that direction.
Yes, I'd like to address the issue that Joe Lavasser is a victim of racism in certain knee-jerk reactions he's had. But when you called, I was explaining about Ronald Reagan's campaign of 1980 and the symbolism of it, the white superiority and the anti-segregation. And people absorb that over a generation. The welfare queen, when Joe tells a young African-American, get a job. I found that is more insidious than zipperhead, which is a Vietnam term for Asian Americans. And then we have a president. Joe is one of those people. When I went to see him in his law office, he had a Mitt Romney sign. That was back in 2014 or something.
Can I ask a question?
Trump and his racism is affecting all of us and Joe. So Joe,
Mr. O'Connell, you are a current. Is he an alderman?
He is an alderman. He's a board of the school committee member at large.
Okay, so he
actually got a better percentage of the vote than Joe.
Right, and I enjoy listening to his program. Being on a face-to-face individual relationship that you have, whether it's turmoil or good or whatever, you probably don't want to really set the precedent as it's that easy to get rid of someone for something they say anyway. So you always got to be careful what you say. I get it. But dealing with your day-to-day with him, would you agree with John that he may not be racist, but sometimes some things could come across
his
that
behavior
way.
Can be his behavior can be racist, as it's an artifact of our culture, and him being.
And I know you have to
Trump
answer
Republican.
a certain way, so I don't expect you to actually give me the real deal. But do you see where people are coming from, at least a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I don't have a problem with calling things out when I do that. I've done that in the past. In this circumstance, I'm very interested in, now that the subject's out of the closet and we're having the conversation. I'd love to have a conversation with Joe Kelly Lavasser or anybody else, for that matter, on these topics.
Yes.
Not for the purpose of a gotcha or a
street
or
fight,
an accusatory thing, but rather to try and shine light. To say, look, we as a society, how do we move past this? And
an educational.
Get his explanation, perhaps.
Learning, an education experience.
I would say this, that there is a bar that if it is passed, or a line is passed, that people, I don't shy away from people being asked to resign if they pass the line, if they cross the line. I would say in this city that those lines have been crossed a number of times in the past. If the worst thing that was ever done in the city of Manchester is what was said last week, that would be a blessing, because we've had all kinds of mockery,
Gerard was
racist statements,
where's a
that are
racist?
made by people for a long, long time, and so I just want it to come to an end. I want people to reach an understanding, and I have faith in human nature. I think a lot of people just don't realize how that they have an issue and they don't even know it. But I wish they would at least sit and listen. And
the product of your environment,
and work way forward. In the end, we have 14,000 students in this city, young and not so young students, and we ought to be mentors to them. We ought to be examples to them, and we should expect our behaviors. That they should mirror our behaviors. If we're behaving badly and are intolerant and not able to resolve our issues while resorting to anger and violence, then we can't expect anything from the next generation other than the same thing. So I think this is a learning moment for our city, and we can come out of it stronger and better, and that will be my hope. And I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that that's what is the outcome of this. I want this to remain in the spotlight and not just be a moment in time and go away.
Thank you.
I want to actually move and not just talk about it. If I could say one other thing, there was mention at the school board meeting around the fact that previous boards had, back in 2005 or 7, had made some statements about these issues. That's exactly the problem, right? There's sort of it's platitudinal, right? People say something, they write a slogan, they stick it on a wall, and in the end, nothing changes.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I think people are ready for change.
Jim, would you join me in a call to de-escalate any of this? And I'm not speaking for Tyrell or black folk or people of color that have legitimate grievances in such situations. But to use this as a learning moment, ask Joe Lavassa to stop his postings and stop ratcheting it up, which Joe is Joe. We've always said that. People say, Joe is Joe, but this is too much. These are people that, signed the petition. But that we all de-escalate. And I'll call on Governor Sununu to come down here, and Mayor Craig. Take them into that room near the chamber that's got all the, photos from like the 1964, all the primaries and stuff like that. And the governor at one long end of the table, Joyce at the other, set Terrell and Joe there to talk. But we got to talk about this.
I
doubt it would happen.
Not happening.
Yeah, because that's impossible. It's impossible, though.
Sununu wouldn't come from that.
He doesn't care.
Look, the people of Manchester, the vast majority, and I mean the vast majority of the people of Manchester are decent, good, well-living people who want to go on with their lives, and they want to live in a city that's harmonious and where people care for each other, and that's the reality one sees on the streets, on most streets of Manchester.
Yes,
which it is
and
for the most part.
I want the governor to run the state and not look after petty politics in Manchester, where we've got a couple of people who are.
I don't think this is petty, Jim.
But
I disagree. It's not petty.
Okay. So
racism isn't petty.
No, it's not
but
petty.
You don't want to turn it into a political stunt.
The opinion of the people of Manchester. So
you don't want to turn it into a political stunt. Yeah.
But this is his body of work that's being put on the light, not this one comment.
I don't want to waste time on having conversations that are not about actually making things better. I mean, if people want to behave badly, they're going to behave badly, and I'm not going to. We can't be held hostage to the behavior of one person or two people, and they're trying to use inflammatory language.
But we are held hostage to them.
Yeah, I'm going to bounce off because.
Okay, thanks for calling.
It's getting hot in here. I don't blame him.
But thank you. Jim tries to keep me from throwing gasoline on a fire. Thank you, Jim.
No, I'd bill out of this as well. Because it's getting a little hot, and he's got to watch what he says.
It's not that we have to watch. That's Jim.
Well, he does have to watch what he says because
he's more responsible than either of us.
Imagine me as a. But I was gonna say, if JK would have run tomorrow for Alderman at large, he'd still win. He'd still get the votes.
Yeah, because.
And there's that.
Can you keep it down out there? We have a live show. Is that you, Norm?
Oh my God!
I wish
He's
I
doing it, Norm.
Norm, I wished I had telepathy. I wished I had your psychic stuff.
Hey, Norm,
I could have just sent it to you.
Didn't
I didn't
see
know it
that
was you.
coming, huh?
I didn't know it was
see
you.
that coming.
Norm, if you want to come in, but there's 3 people here. If you'd like to come in, we can make some space for you. Would you like to come in and talk?
There's only 4 microphones.
The bottom
Okay.
line. The bottom line is this zip ahead comment was the way
Don't
to
say
get
that word because we're
Okay.
Asian American.
That's
Well,
what
I
he-
said it too.
You said it a bunch of times.
Because we don't really know, do we?
I'm saying what he
We're
said.
learning.
The comment isn't why he's. It's the reason they got him out. But all
is the comment.
all this uproar, all this, it's because he has set himself in that position for years,
keep
and now
talking.
everyone's like, okay, that's enough of this guy, you know. So it's like, now that they have the forum, now that he's on the stage, now his body of work is getting judged, I think, and that's something that isn't that mindful of. Like, people don't really care that much. That's why I said if he were to run tomorrow, he would still get all the votes he needed to win. Maybe not as many, but the thing about voting is it's secret, it's private. Nobody knows who did what. So a lot of racism is, and a lot of stuff like that is secret, private. So for you to vote yes or no, whatever, nobody knows what you're doing it. You know, it's when you come out in the light. Like, that's why a lot of Democrats, when they run for president, they think they got it sealed up from the polls. You think you got it, but the Republicans just aren't putting the poll. They're not doing the polls. So then when election comes, they all turn up, and then you just didn't see that coming, you know. So when you vote, that's why I said if he wins tomorrow, like say he ran tomorrow, he'd still win because the people who vote nobody knows how they voted.
Brendan, do you have that background I sent you? I know I sent it to you late.
Hold on.
And what
Yeah,
people,
keep talking.
And what people do,
If you can throw that up.
well, people do mind what he said, and they think that is wrong. It's like the president; they're willing to overlook it for whatever reason it is. Why do Trumpers just pretend he didn't say what he said? It's because overall they don't mind as much, you know. So maybe people just. Maybe the 5,000 people who signed it are the only 5,000 people that are doing that. Like,
No, I found
nobody speaks out against them, because if they do, say a Republican
afraid.
on the alderman board comes out against him and he doesn't leave his post, that guy's screwed for now on. He'll remember that. He'll call him out on his show. He'll do whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So that fear.
We know Joe.
that
We know
fear-
Joe, folks,
yeah,
but
he
we, you know.
called Dan O'Neill a piece of crap 2 weeks ago.
Well,
So if you know Dan O'Neill, he's not a piece
I
of crap.
think
He's an
that-
amazing person.
I'll
actually.
tell you, I think Joe Levesque his show should be terminated, and Brett Kavanaugh,
Oh.
one of his heroes, has
He'll get
given
some views tonight.
MPTS the right to do that.
He's going to get the viewership tonight. That's for sure. Everyone else is tuning in. I'll watch.
Not
it.
everyone. People, I can't watch
Aren't
him.
you
He's
curious to see
repulsive.
his reaction to all
No.
this?
I can't watch him. It's like Gerard. They're repulsive. They're physically repulsive. There was an I think this is how we cope with it. No justice, no primary. We make it, if this state refuses to address racism, which it has never done, we get the DNC and candidates. Kamala Harris is going to be here
You wanna
Friday,
punish-
that they terminate the New Hampshire primary.
So you're saying
This is Joe's behavior, and this.
what good does that do? Getting rid of our primary, though, that's only good for New Hampshire.
Be good for the whole country.
If New Hampshire lost the primary,
It would be good even without Joe saying anything. Iowa and New Hampshire, the Iowa caucuses and the New Hampshire primary are a form of racist gerrymandering to prevent, black candidates from reaching the top. Now you say Obama reached the top, but he faced as his main opponent
he
the
lost
worst,
in New Hampshire too.
the worst candidate in the history of the United States. He lost to her in the primary. They had
Yeah.
to rig the 2016 rigging. I don't like to use that term, but they know how to master the process. So Bernie got beat, and then she unbelievably lost to Trump. She is the world's greatest loser. They should have a show, The World's Greatest Loser, Except they have enough money, the Clintons.
That's a little off topic, but
No, No.
justice, no primary. So you're saying, like, if we don't get it together, and how would you know
New
if we
Hampshire,
got it together or not?
New Hampshire.
But how would you know if we're getting it together or not? They should get rid of the primary as a punishment.
They should get rid of the primary anyways.
Right, but
New
that's not
Hampshire
what you
primary
said.
should be terminated.
There's a picture of New Hampshire on the...
Right. No justice if this state refuses to do something.
Right? So, yeah. So you're saying that's the consequence of not being
of this
more
state
sensitively...
Not sensitive. Of this state refusing to do anything to address systemic racism. Tell me, Gonzo, the fire, according to... Let me talk.
Okay.
What good would that do?
Getting rid of the primary, though.
It would do the United States a great deal of good.
Would it
would
teach
do every.
New Hampshire a
It would
lesson?
do. That's not the point,
That
Gonzo.
seems to be the point. Like, no justice or no primary.
Have you ever lived anywhere else but New Hampshire?
Yeah, for a minute. Not long.
So you have no experience outside of New Hampshire?
Not really. Like 6 months. I lived in California for a little bit, but then I came home.
So for people of color or anybody that lives outside of New Hampshire and Iowa to get screwed by the process of this racist gerrymandering or just plain there.
Okay.
Let me talk.
I think I know where you're going.
You're screwed. Look at the candidate. Trump, we gave the country Trump. Joe Lavasser had a Trump thing right at his restaurant. I'm not the only, this is people of color that are talking about this.
You're going with the all-white jury argument that the pool of people isn't
Good.
diverse enough to have a primary. Okay.
Let me ask
that
you,
I can see your point.
Let me ask
I can
you
see
a
point there,
question.
but
so it should be done anyways, but no
I like
justice,
having the primary here.
No primary.
I think it's
Who
cool.
cares about you? You're part of 1.3 million people. There's 350 million people in this country.
Right, and it's like our little nook. It's our thing. It's our
Oh,
it's our
you
little.
mean it's
it individualizes
And why do you
us here.
think New
David
Ham-
Muir goes on Commercial Street. It's cool. I think.
I don't care what you as a New Hampshire person you don't care about taking anything substantive against racism. Let me ask you a question.
You talking to me now?
Yeah, you
about
personally.
my behavior or whatever. Like you.
What have you done?
Are you questioning my? Okay.
Yeah, because we're
What have I
we're
done?
gonna
I don't
unmatch
know.
it.
I don't know.
Let me ask you a question. Joe Lavasser said on one of his shows that the fire department has a contingent of firefighters of over 250. There's not one person of color. There's not one woman. Now, he said there might be one Hispanic. This is 42 years after the Civil Rights Act of 1968 was passed. 1968.
Is that true?
It was signed by Lyndon Johnson while Washington and other cities were undergoing severe riots because of the assassination, the murder of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. Incidentally, this is the last state to have a Dr. Martin Luther King holiday, to name it after him. And
Which we did change, though.
In the last state.
Okay.
And the articles say, the contrarian nature of New Hampshire. No, it's the racist nature of New Hampshire. This is a city where around the 1970s, black families were burned out. This is a city where William Loeb, the union leader, had a front page editorial. We have 300 blacks, and that's enough. I remember that because it happened in my
They
freshman
just
year
had
of high
a
school.
controversial, in my opinion, headline the other day where they said, sick of the amenities when they showed the homeless camp. I thought that was a wrong thing. The Union Leader is known for being...
Union Leader was the only state paper.
I know, and but they're going down anyway. You won't see them
We'll
long.
take a call from Mary. Mary LeMay, how you doing? Mary? I hear you're running for state rep. I hear you're running for state rep.
Yeah, I am. It's first time, and
District 45.
I don't have much money, so I won't be getting signs and stuff like that, but it's from the heart. I love helping people, and if I make it, it's good. If I don't, it's still going to be okay, because I know I'm running with my heart and try to help change everything around, and if I can do it, I will do it.
I've tried too.
I have for you, John.
Yeah.
And for the other guy, I hear everybody,
Gonzo.
not only you, but I hear everybody out there. Democrats, Democrats, Democrats. That's all you hear.
You're a Democrat. Yeah. Anybody that cares about racism is a Democrat.
Democrats, and they blame the Democrats for everything. Don't the Republicans and Independents, can't they take responsibility for their own acts?
That's an excellent question.
No, they can't. They blame the Democrats for what their acts, what they do. Come on, folks. We're all one party.
We really are.
We're United States. We're people.
Human beings.
Take responsibility.
Yes. Thank you so much for those remarks.
I mean, it has to be done. You got to take your own responsibility. Don't blame it on one party all the time. It takes two to tangle, no matter how you come out with it.
Yeah. What do you think about Alderman Lavasser?
You know, I'm on my show. I mentioned his name, and I'm not afraid to mention Joe's name. I've heard him say different things, and I've heard him call people different names, the B word, and everything else.
He's called Joyce Craig the B word on his TV show, which we couldn't do.
But
we couldn't
Joe,
do. We're allowed to do.
I hope you're listening, because it's time to grow up.
Hi, Joe. I hope you're listening.
Pants now.
That's
Stop wearing
exactly
your
true.
little shorts for little kids. Wake up, Joe. Wake up.
You're
an alderman. You got people beside you on that alderman and all the ladies. Respect who you have on that party. Respect everybody you work with. That's all I have to say for him.
That's absolutely true. He won't grow up. He just has to cause trouble. He could have apologized to Terrell, but I'd like to have. It's just amazing. But we all know him. He just. You know what Joe likes to do? He likes to post something provocative and allow all those people, those Lavasser people, with their hate and the craziness, he cultivates it. Like with Joyce Craig, he'll put, she's got a mole, and then they all come on and insult them.
Or his Mayor Invisible graphic that he puts up. It's just
no, that's not the same thing.
Guys,
You're attacking her en route.
And I don't think
He cultivates it, and he's.
If someone say to their kids, God forbid someone said something against their kids, their wives, would they like it? No, they wouldn't. Stop and think what you're doing to other people.
Well,
if you don't want it to happen to you or call names to your family, don't do it to other people.
You know what, Mary? It's amazing that he's if the screenshot I see is true, he's accusing Tyrell, the person that he called the zipperhead and said get a job, of fanning hatred against him. He turns everything around and putting his family at danger. Whereas at that rally, with the BLM rallies, we have a group called, I haven't confirmed it, Oath Keepers here, armed white militia whose leaders are racist and anti-BLM and have weapons. And I guess, according to Jim O'Connell, Victoria Sullivan was down there getting photographed with with armed people. So here's a threat of violence.
She's a joke.
Of violence. And he is, frankly, with his stuff, consciously, I'd like to say it's unconsciously, cultivating racism and making it a pressure cooker, putting Tyrell's life in danger and of the protesters, because the violence when we have the protests came from the right. You know, somebody barreling a car into somebody in Charlottesville, 28 people injured, one person dead. Thank God the South has changed, because you're old enough to remember it was the Martin Luther King era. Anybody that did that would be a hero, never get convicted by a jury. But this guy's first-degree murder just got convicted. And, with Mike Porter, send a truck down there, a plow truck. Yeah, plow, which means plow through them. I mean, he's backtracking that, but that's how it's understood.
There's no need of this racing. There's no need of, because it'd be like if we were different color and we wasn't white. It'd be the same thing.
Well, Mary, you're French Canadian.
You're right now with everything is happening. But like I said, people who work and with the government, like with the mayor, work in the city hall. They work up in Concord. Respect the people around you.
Right.
If you don't have respect for them, you have no respect for yourself.
That's true, Joe.
You have respect for everybody, and respect comes when you get respect and you get it back.
That's so true, Mary. Because and if everybody says that, the people that like a child beater was like beaten as a child. People so a person with no self-respect. We've often heard that can't show people respect. And in that way, we had two people that have shows on this station that have a remarkable degree of lack of self-respect. But he creates these forums to whip up, I would call it his bourgeoisie.
He throws it out there and then lets all the
he
people on
coupled it.
both sides
He
go
never
crazy.
censors it.
200 comments. He
He
still,
gets off
but
on
he
it.
doesn't go on. Like he throws it out there, and then it's like he walks away from the flame before it explodes.
And others out there.
But I want to
To
ask,
show them how to have respect for themselves and have respect for people around them. You got to, I guess it's like teaching kids as they grow up. You have to teach them from right from wrong. Then it's up to us to teach people from right from wrong.
He needs a spanking.
Show them what it's like from right from wrong to to have. If you want the old saying, you want respect, you gotta have respect back. You gotta have a lot of gumph, and some people don't have it. But me, I don't care what color. You can be green. I don't care. I will get along with anybody who'll get along with me.
but
I'm that type of person.
people with experience
And I
realize.
don't care what party you're from. You can become from Republican, Independent. I don't care. And I am a Democrat.
Yeah.
I've had Republicans on my show. I've had them all on my show. I don't care what party you're from. It don't bother me a bit.
But one of the things that not having such a diverse community, for us, racism is calling somebody a frog. I didn't find out I was part French Canadian until I was 17 because my mother wouldn't talk about that part of her heritage. And racism against French, really, did you grow up in the West Side, Mary?
Yes, I did.
So you know
I'm
it was
French,
Yeah.
mostly Native American, because my grandparents were full-blooded Indians that came in
Right.
from Canada.
Quebec.
My grandmother on my mother's side was full-blooded Micmac, and my father's side were Iroquois. Came right from the reservation.
And if you...
And my great-grandfather came right from Dublin, Ireland. They were Irish.
Right, that's a typical Canadian mixture. And if you still had a Quebecois accent and spoke French, people would say, we consider you a foreigner, even if you were born in the United States.
That's right.
They almost
That's
burned down
right. They
Chez
used to say,
Vachon, I heard.
Go back to the west side. Go back to the
It's a
French
grease
side.
fire.
They
Go
used
back to
tell
the
us,
west side.
go
Oh, my
back to
God.
Canada.
You need a passport to go across the river, remember?
Yeah.
Frogtown, frog.
You poor things. Oh, how'd you live through that? That's way different.
Yeah,
Hey.
I've been called everything growing up as a kid, let me tell you. And when they found out, years ago when I went to school, you wasn't allowed to tell anybody you were Native American. You were
That's
French
right.
and Irish.
That's exactly right. Hey, I'd love to come on your show sometime. I love you, Mary.
I'd love to have you guys on my show.
Okay. We're going to have to close down now because Norm is coming down.
As soon as that, like I said, I got the doctor yesterday, and they think they know where the infections I'm getting from.
Mary, you're wonderful.
Yeah, so I
Good
hope
luck in the
by maybe
election.
By the end of June, or maybe the second, I think the second will run on July. I hope to be back.
Okay. We will talk to you then, and thank you so much for calling in. Because
You're welcome.
we need to educate Joe. We need to give him a spanking, as a bad schoolboy.
I would love to sit down
And
with
you'd
Joe.
love that,
And
too.
spank him?
I've met Joe a few times face to face.
You and your...
And he really ignored me, but that's okay. I love you, Joe.
yeah.
Catch you later. Bye-bye.
Bye. I'll tell you a little thing. Joe says that he's 3/4 Greek. He just can't fess up to being part French Canadian, just like my mother couldn't. We were in a Canadian-themed restaurant, me and my sisters and one of my nieces. It's got a moose on it. And I asked my mother, come on, Ma, admit you're a French Canadian, part French Canadian. She says, all right, I'm a frog. Are you happy?
Oh, my God.
Because
See-
in her time, she was Irish, and that's what she identified with,
But
half
she could
Irish.
sit at a booth and
But she
be
was-
not like if you're black, you're black.
You're not listening to the story.
I'm saying it's not.
You're not listening to the
I'm
story.
listening to the story. I
The
get it.
story
I get
is
it. Bad.
that French Canadians were the lowest part on the rung here. They came in, and the resentment that they had was fierce, that my mother wouldn't admit to it. My father and my mother knew Grace Metalius, the author of Peyton Place, biggest selling novel of all time at one time, and George, the husband, who was Greek. Metellus is a Greek name. And they used to drink homemade ouzo with them. And when I told my father that Grace was French-Canadian, he said, no, she's not. She was Greek. He didn't even know that because you didn't admit to stuff like that. And Joe Lavassa tells me he's 3/4 Greek, which is probably true, but, he is French-Canadian.
But they can hide that, I'm saying, because they're white. They can hide that.
You can hide an accent, a Quebecois accent.
I'm pretty sure it's easier to
You
hide
can
that
hide
you're
your name.
French-Canadian than
What
it
is
is that if you're African-American.
So you can hide your name, like Lavassa or something. Your name is, some people would think you're Spick just if they saw Gonzalez. And that's a hateful and hurtful thing to say, isn't it? Isn't it?
It's alarming, is what it is.
I'm saying it, though. You could call me a mick,
get,
a wasp. Hey, we got to
I
get going,
confused
but
with that all the time, yes. People think
you should go on Matt's show, like Friday. Well, I'm going to be on Matt's show next with Dave Detmer, the professor who's written about Howard Zinn, is going to be on, and we're going to talk about what happened during the 60s, the race riots and that, and what we can do to realize Dr. King's dream.
I like Mary giving Joe Kelly
Thank
a
you,
spanking.
bye.
That sounds good.
Why don't you give him a spanking?
Love to.
Bye, folks. See you next.